Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Phil McIntosh, Chief Economist at Nasdaq, to discuss stocks surging on positive vaccination news and what the rotation trade could possibly look like and where the market value is. And Phil, it seems as if this is the day people have been waiting for. We got past the election. We finally got some positive vaccination news. Now we just have to get through the end of 2020 and get people on board to take this vaccination. Still some way to go.
Yeah, what a big news day it's turning out to be. I mean, who would have thought that the coronavirus vaccine would be able to trump the news of the election? But that seems to be what's happened. I mean, we obviously had a bit of a rally last week on news that it looked like Biden had secured enough votes to get the election. He claimed victory over the weekend. We still haven't had a concession from Trump, but the volatility index had already started to fall on the certainty of the future on the electoral front. And then we wake up this morning and we find that there's some pretty positive news from the vaccines, very good effectiveness rate. And so the market is up. But what's up are all of the old economy stocks. You can see gold is down. We don't need the protection of gold anymore. Oil is up nearly 10% because people are probably going to be getting back on airplanes and doing the old-fashioned things that we used to do, going on holidays, hotels, the leisure industry. It's good news for restaurant employees. I think the thing to keep in mind, though, and we've talked about this a bunch of times, is it's going to take a while to actually distribute it across the world so that all the countries we want to go and visit are safe to visit as well. So it's not a panacea this week, but the markets are obviously good at forward looking. And so they're pricing in getting back to normal at last at some point in the nearish future.
And if we take a look at our first set of charts today with the COVID-19 update, we can see that while there's vaccination positive news out there, we are well over 100,000 cases a day, at least in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, if it hadn't been for the vaccine news this morning, we probably would have been talking about the new caseload over the weekend, which is pretty dire. The Europeans had been seeing over 100,000 cases a day, and now America is as well. And it's turning into hospitalizations, and it's starting to turn into an uptick in death rates. We've got more than 1,000 people dying a day from COVID. So we've talked about in the past, that affects the economy. And it was probably one of the big things that Biden would have to tackle is getting COVID under control to the point where people don't want to quarantine at home and they do feel comfortable being out and doing things that they can do safely. Getting schools to open and stay open safely without lots of cases shutting them back down. And so we are in the middle still of a pretty bad second wave of COVID, and the data is proving that.
And we can certainly see that when we look at jobs numbers, and we also look at what's happening in the small and mid-business markets. The vaccine certainly is the key to recovery here.
Yeah, and I think America had kind of resolved itself to that already. But you can look at the employment numbers. I mean, we've had a good recovery from the bottoms on employment, but we are still 10 million people unemployed. And we know from the data that they're in specific sectors. They're in restaurants, they're in bricks and mortar retail, they're in travel and tourism. So a lot of those sectors have been really badly hurt, hire a lot of people, and they're not likely to get back to work while coronavirus is around. And you're starting to see, obviously, the jobs numbers keep getting better. The unemployment rate keeps coming down. But as coronavirus has started to spike, you are starting to see small firms reduce their hiring. And so the headwinds were looking pretty bad for winter. And I guess depending how long this vaccine takes to start distributing, winter could still be pretty tough. And it'd be good to see people sort of knuckle down and not spread coronavirus too much more in the next few months so that when we do go through winter, we can do as many of the things normally as we're wanting to do.
Right, of course. And if we look at our last chart here, of course, I just want to take one more deeper dive into the election here. We know that the election has been called, but it still seems as if that there's going to be a little bit of uncertainty around that as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Trump hasn't conceded. There's legal cases out there. I was looking at the predicted markets this morning, and they're actually less confident on Biden than a couple of days ago. So that's interesting just to see that people that are willing to put their money where their mouth is think that there's enough risk out there of one of these court cases. Or I think in reality now probably 3 court cases would be required because you'd have to overturn Arizona, Pennsylvania, and potentially Georgia to take away the Electoral College votes now. But so the paths to victory for Trump are narrowed, but the markets are still not pricing in 100% of a Biden victory.
All right, Phil, busy week for us for sure. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks.
You're welcome, Joe.
All right, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.